Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Inside Podcast, edition number 2. And today I'm joined by my friend, who I'll introduce you to in a second, and we'll be talking about sexuality. He's already laughing. Okay, what is your name?
Lucy.
Speak up.
Lucy,
What is your age?
19 years old,
Your sexuality?
undefined.
Interesting. What is your schooling and work experience?
I was at the same school for my whole schooling experience, and it was very confining, I feel. And at the moment, I'm working at a shoddy um, local food store.
That you don't want to name?
No, because I just said it was shoddy.
Okay, what is your relationship with me, David?
It's not shoddy, shit. Someone could be listening to this. Not shoddy.
Okay, what is your relationship with me, Lucy?
You're my best friend
Okay, cool. How did we meet?
at a party.
Yeah. When was that? Come on.
Oh, sorry. The party was in 2011, and I wasn't actually going to go that night because I didn't know many people. Why did I go? Whose was it? This party
Tom's.
was it? Oh, it's Tom. Tom.
Was at Tom's house?
Yeah. Yeah. So I went and I met lots of different people, and I went with someone who I was relatively good friends with, but I didn't know particularly well. And at the end of it, it was just like, bam, here's David, here's a whole heap of other people that are really cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
If you had to live in a house that had a view, would you rather a view of the hills and suburbs or one of the city?
Hills and suburbs for sure.
Yeah, like the serene.
Actually, it depends on my mood. If I was having one of those, I feel so connected with myself and the world around me, I definitely want hills and suburbs. But sometimes I think it's really nice to have a city view because it grounds you and makes you realize that you're one of so many multiple, lots of different people.
Yeah.
And productivity, I reckon, is easier when you've got other people around you who are working.
Yeah. Part of the hustle bustle, hey? Okay, and the lead-in question for sexuality is, when did you first notice your own sexuality?
Probably when I was 11 years old.
Yeah?
I was like in the car with someone, and they asked me, like, kind of frightenedly, they were like, "You're not gay, are you?" And I just remember as an 11-year-old being like, "Holy shit, what if I am?" And then I guess I didn't think of it. I just thought, "Oh, this could be a thing," but then I just like dropped it. And then I guess the first proper time was when I was about, when I, like, obviously now I look back, I can see multiple occasions when that could have been a thing. Younger, but I guess 15 was when I was actively aware of it.
What were you aware of? Do you want to go into detail or just give a brief description of how you would sort of position yourself?
Um, I guess everyone has relationships with people, and they always have people that they hold up as maybe idols or something. And when I was 15, I realized that the person who operated as that idol, in inverted commas, for me, um, I think I was like fervently in love with them. Like, now looking back, at the time, I didn't realize that, even though I did have like feelings for that person that I was just unsure of. I just didn't realize what they meant. Maybe because I just didn't want to realize what they meant. Me?
Were you scared?
No, I was a little bit concerned because I don't like open-ended things. I like things to be well defined. And it could have just, like, I think it might be more my personality rather than my sexuality that drove that relationship. And lols. And I was more upset because I worked out that they were never going to return. That
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Would you say that from the language that you use, it does come down to the personality and bodies are just bodies? Is that right?
Very much right. I guess for some people, obviously, there are people who definitely identify as gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, etc., or 100% straight. But for me, I don't think it's, at first, as a younger person, I did want to define it because youth, that's a really flimsy term, is full of changes and full of uncertainties, and I think having an additional uncertainty just makes everything so much harder. So initially, I guess I did try to define it, but then I came in contact with someone who made the comment that sexuality is fluid. And as a 16-year-old, I was like, "You are a pretentious wanker." But the older I get, the more I realize that that is a fantastic way of putting it, and that most people, maybe that's a generalization, but there are very few people that I believe, and I have met quite a few people who are both gay and straight. Straight, well then that just defeats the purpose. Not straight, but happy to. That makes it sound worse. I guess. What am I saying? Oh yeah. Bisexuality is basically like universal. I reckon that you do fall in love with people, and you may fall in love with them in a non-sexual sense, but your love for them translates to something sexual.
I guess there's so many things that we could talk about, but I guess I'll start with what you just said, and that's where's the line between appreciating somebody, being sexually attracted to somebody, and being romantically involved with someone? Do you think it's clear cut, or do you think there's a spectrum, or do you think they go hand in hand?
I think it's very different for everyone. For example, there are people who I love unconditionally, and the thought of making sweet love to them makes me feel slightly nauseous. Whereas there are other people who I don't find at all sexually attractive, and that's what I just said, wasn't it? No, the people who I do find sexually attractive and my love for them isn't that passionate, but I would make sweet love to them. And then there are people who I just want to bang their brains out, and I also have that loving connection. So I think for maybe it's just personally, I find it really difficult to discern between loving someone in a I love you and I would bust my bottom dollar for you, and loving someone and being like, fuck, goodness, that's not a good word to put into a podcast. Being like, holy shit, I want to take you on the floor.
Yeah, definitely. I love your honesty.
That's why my sexuality is particularly confusing, because I do tend to confuse admiration and friendship and care with love, which is probably kind of coupled with lust a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Like my love for that person somehow gets skewed in my brain as me being sexually attracted to them, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to.
It might be a possession kind of thing.
Maybe.
Which makes it really nasty, and I feel bad if anyone out in the gay community feels like they're being hunted up by this conversation. That is not at all my intention, please forgive me.
Well, what about the gay or LGBTQ community? Do you feel like there is your own roommate is part of it? Do you feel like there is a strong set community, or do you think that there needs to be more?
It really depends how you handle your sexuality and how the people around you handle your sexuality. For example, one of my lesbian friends is a flaming homosexual. Like, she's a raging lesbian, and I don't think, like, if she wanted to be a part of the community, she would be. But I think in her being herself, she is inherently the community. You know what I mean? Whereas other people who I know who are lesbian or gay are quite not in the closet, but they're just not wanting that to define their experience.
Yeah, I think something that I've read of is, the singer Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
He gets very, very angry when people say like, "Oh, you're a gay man." Do you find it frustrating when people, if anyone's like, "This is my friend Lucy, she's a lesbian," would that?
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't actually call myself a lesbian.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Obviously not. And I wouldn't.
I'm sure people have made that mistake.
Yeah, no, they have. I recently got my hair cut really short, and I went out with some friends, and I told them that I had kind of made a decision, but not really. I'm still pretty undecided, but I was a bit closer to when I'd last seen them, and we went out that night, and we went out to a place where there was a lot. Actually, it was 3, and one of my friends went around the whole night being like, "This is Lucy, she's a lesbian," and it's just like, that's cool, but that's one thing that I think gets people's goat. Like, anyone who is homophobic, I think maybe one of the stigmas is that people introduce themselves as gay or lesbian as that is their defining feature, and I think that is when when sexuality and your preferences become confronting to someone who isn't homosexual, because they are immediately confronted with the fact that you're different from them, and difference is what people can't seem to cope with. But also, because that I don't identify as a lesbian, and if I do decide to identify as a lesbian, I don't want someone to be that to be the first thing someone finds out about me. So having someone not only take the right from me away of discussing that with someone else, like something, it's quite personal, but they also did it in a manner which I would never come about doing. Obviously now people who don't know me who are listening to this know straight away, but still that's beside the point. They haven't seen my face.
It's very. I mean, it's
This was
different for
really
everybody.
garbled, I'm sorry.
No, I think what I'm getting from this is that because the community is so large and visible these days, that it's just there's no point trying to define somebody within it when everybody is so different, and it's almost just like what color is their eyes, what color is their hair, what sexuality are they, that sort of doesn't define them in any way.
Yeah.
You touched on homophobia briefly. Have you had any like seriously confronting experiences with homophobic people?
Not really. One time when I was out with my girlfriend in inverted commas, I probably shouldn't refer to her that anymore. It was quite late at night, and some people made a comment when we passed them. Like it wasn't like a big deal, but it was still like, wow, this still exists. And then at the music festival, actually I was at Splendor, and I was holding hands with one of my friends who is straight down the line, would never touch a titty, and we walked past a whole gang of like people. It was quite late at night, and everyone was off their nipples, and I just remember them being like, "Dykes," as we walked past, and it was funny because like we weren't, but at the same time I felt that as a potential or as like a member of the LGBTQ community, I was just like, wow, I should get up there and like punch their lights out and say something, but then I was like, well, not really, because people are gonna think what they're gonna think, and it was a music festival and they were pinging quite hard, so it wasn't anything personal. But at the same time, that sort of thing, defining someone by their sexuality, like instead of being like, I think if someone walked past and they had blonde hair and someone yelled out blonde, it's like the same sort of thing. Like you shouldn't react to someone based on a personal or a physical trait, like one thing. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm getting at here. It's really late at night. I'm tired.
How do you feel about the use of language? I know from my own experience that I went to an all boys school, and it's just like, oh, you're so gay, man, you're such a fag. And I would be very ashamed if I accidentally let slip one of those words and someone got angry at me. I would be extremely embarrassed, extremely sorry to them. How do you feel about that use of language?
Personally, I don't care, but I care about me using. Like, if someone used it and they were in my presence, I wouldn't be like, oh, like, look who you're with. But I would never, because I realise that is incredibly disrespectful. However, one time I did use that word. I actually said faggot, and I felt so ashamed. And I was with a gay boy at the time, and he got, even though we were really good friends, he got really upset. And like I said, I'm so sorry, like that just came out. I don't use that word at all. Like I was drunk at the time, but I can see how other people would find that not just hurtful, but in a way like someone's shitting on your entire existence.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. Again, everyone's different.
What about? You don't want swearing in this, by the way.
No, you can swear as much as you want. In the last podcast, we were letting it rip, like
dropping the F-bombs.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Get out of town. I wish I'd known that earlier. Can we listen to this when it's done?
I'm not gonna listen to this. I don't listen to
Can we
them.
please? I need to listen to it just in case it's like embarrassing.
You can listen to it.
Okay, cool.
With your family, I know I like your mum because I've met her a couple of times. But did you feel daunted by the process of sort of revealing that you're not the binary heterosexual, and did you feel that their reactions were supportive?
I didn't though. I don't even know how it happened. Like there was no coming out moment. There was no anything like that. I think it was the first person that I think it was someone I was at school with, and like there'd been two people previous to that which I had refused to acknowledge my attraction to, and then I think I told her, and she was like, if you're going to be gay, I will support you fully, but it's a very hard road to walk, and I, as a mother, would prefer that you didn't. And then her second reaction when she found out who it was like, I don't care if you're gay, just pick someone that is worthy of you. And then from then on, that kind of stopped for a bit, and I actually engaged in like an extremely heterosexual relationship for like a year and 2 months, which was ridiculous. And then I started sleeping with someone who was a chick, and I was just like, this is actually a thing, Mum. Like, it's not. Oh, right. It's not like a phase in inverted commas. It's a real deal. Like, this chick blew my mind. I naively thought that I was madly in love with her, but it was probably just that I was a bit horny. No, that really cools the relationship to what's not. But yeah, let's not go into that one. It's a bit sad. Yeah, no. So there was no like, oh my god, I'm gay. It was just like, this is a thing. Are you okay? And yeah, the end.
What do you think if you had a daughter or a son who came and said to you, and just imagine you were completely blindsided by this, and they said, I think I prefer the same gender. What do you think you would say? And I guess also, what do you think is the best response for that?
I would say I am honoured that you have trusted me enough to share this information with me. And then I would, like, obviously, I probably wouldn't need to outline the difficulties. Hopefully, by the time I do have kids, if I ever do have kids, which I probably won't have kids because I'm not equipped to be a mother.
You'll be fine.
Nah, I'll suck. I would tell them, I would be like, this is going to be really hard, and just know that I will be your number one support system throughout the whole process. And then, of course, I'd do the whole same. I would just approach it like it was a heterosexual relationship.
Yeah, I would say I'd have to agree with you there. I think a lot of people. Do you agree with me when I say a lot of people miss the point, and it really comes down to supporting the person rather than talking about
the issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess we've covered a lot of ground there. What do you think is in the future for people who don't identify, well, actually, who do identify as heterosexual and who are everything but heterosexual?
You mean people who say they're heterosexual and enjoy having vibrant sex with?
No, I mean, like, what do you? I guess we're not there yet, and I'm sure a lot of people who in the 1960s were non-binary in their sexual preferences probably would have hoped that we'd progressed a little bit more in terms of social acceptance. What do you think that being, let's say, what if you were born in 50 years' time and you are like what you are now, what do you think it will be like then?
I'm hoping that it won't be like anything, in that sexuality will become something that isn't an issue. Someone can be heterosexual, someone can be homosexual, someone can be undecided, and it's not like a, oh golly, this person is. It's just like a fact, like just like I was born in this year, I have 2 sisters. It will become like that sort of thing. I'm hoping, like, it doesn't define any social situation, but at the same time, I feel that because it's a bit of like a weird one. Because I am religious, in terms of getting married, this is gonna make anyone listening to this want to punch me in the nuts. Not that I have any, so I think I'll be safe. I think there are too many religious people, regardless of how progressive generations coming, that have instilled in their children that the Bible is the Bible, and marrying people who are homosexual is not something that Jesus wanted or God wanted. So I feel like that's something that's not going to be addressed in the next 50 years. But I think there are definitely going to be. It's really hard to answer this question because I haven't actually been exposed to lots of the stigmas.
Yeah.
I've never been fully stigmatized before. Like, there are already like gay bars. Like, it being homosexual is a thing that is within a society. It's both within and without society. So in 50 years' time, it will just be a thing.
Yeah, that's what I would hope.
Yeah. Or which is like the extreme negative, which I don't really see happening, particularly in relationship to my generation, because I feel like we are quite progressive. It might swing the complete other way, and we'll have someone in power who is neo-Nazi and just refuses the whole concept, and so we will have to retreat back into our closets. And
That's a very interesting concept because if you did ancient history, didn't you?
yeah.
well, there were civilizations past that were a lot more accepting. That was many thousands of years ago.
Wasn't that because like Aristotle was buggering his little boys?
Well, that's a completely different issue. But, and I'm very sorry to our listeners about that.
Why?
Um,
Why are you sorry?
but
It's a fact, isn't it?
yeah, I don't want to talk about pedophilia. That's completely different. But in ancient Greece and ancient Roman empires, especially swinging both ways was a lot more acceptable, and then it became unacceptable. Do you have fears that might happen?
Yes and no. I feel like it might have become unacceptable due to population and
Yeah.
population control, whereas at the moment we seem to have a great number of flourishing individuals. So in terms of like biological reasons, I don't think that would be a potential cause. I think it would more be a social move, like people in government, people in power. But in 50 years' time, I'm actually terrified to see the world in 50 years' time because I feel like it's going to implode on itself. And selfishly, I hope it's not in my lifetime. Will that burp be recorded?
Yes.
Oh golly.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like to think about the future too often. Unless it's like the immediate future, which is probably, again, selfish. But
Oh, you just a few minutes ago you talked about how you are a religious person. Did you have to go through any conflicts internally?
Definitely not. Like, Jesus and I are great mates. Like, seriously though, like, he is my conscience. We have conversations a lot. And I feel that for him to be ashamed of me or for that to damage our relationship, I would have to do something that would intentionally hurt another individual. Whereas my sexuality, unless I somehow become a sexual deviant and pass on AIDS to the communities of both homosexual and heterosexual, I don't see that my sexual preferences will shape how he and I interact.
That's a very warming thought.
But then all the people who are very religious out there are probably shaking their heads at me and suggesting that I'm not religious. Like, to be honest, if that is you, I feel that everyone has their own relationship with God, so please do not criticize mine.
Very good point. Very, very good point. I suppose what I did want to talk to you about was also, I guess this can't really be quantified, but are you happy that you're non-binary in your sexual preferences? Do you feel that it's better for you?
No, I'm not happy in that before I started sleeping with boys and girls, sort of, I guess because of the way I'd been brought up, believed that bisexuality was not a thing, and that it belonged to the girls in clubs who would go home with anyone and drop their knickers and have vibrant sex with someone just for an orgasm, which shows what a shit, small-minded individual I used to be. I might still be, but hopefully I have progressed somewhat. So when I did sleep with someone, a chick for the first time, I was like, okay, that's it. That was fucking fantastic. I'm not going back. I'm never touching a dick again. That was too good to be true. Something I've been wanting to do for ages. But then, and at that point, I was like, I stopped finding guys attractive altogether. And then I met this guy who I was like, wow, like, you're really something. Like, you're quite special, etc., etc. And then we did have some of the best sex of my life, and that was strange. And then, obviously, I've been sleeping with guys and girls ever since. But, I would much prefer if I could make up my mind, because a small part of me does feel dirty. Like, why do I deserve to have this privilege? Like, because when you think about all the fucking sexy females that are out there, and all the delicious males, it's just like, wow. How do I get to choose? But obviously not all of them would want to sleep with me, but you know what I mean.
I'm sure they'd be more than happy.
Pick from both of them, and yeah, that whole concept of just choose one, like, you would settle for anything, you'd be in a shit sandwich, how can you desire both a pussy and a penis? Like, that just doesn't make sense. Which, from my personal point of view, makes a hell of a lot of sense, because this is a really trite way of saying it, but it is about the person. And also, what was the other thing I was going to say? In relationship to that question, is it something good? Also, there was something else. Oh yeah. When I am around people who are overtly homosexual or overtly heterosexual, I almost feel like I am betraying them. Like particularly with some of my friends who are raging lesbians. When I do have sex with guys or when I do other sexual things, I feel like I'm a fraud. So that part of me makes it really hard to identify with the um, homosexual community because I feel like I don't really belong in there. It's just like I can take the benefits of it by getting to sleep with lovely ladies, but I can't cop the flack of actually having to be like, this is who I am. But that's because honestly, I find it really difficult. Like if someone told me to choose right now, they're like boys or girls, I couldn't tell them. Like to be honest, sleeping with chicks is so much better than sleeping with guys. But
I would have to disagree.
you're
No, I agree with you.
ridiculous. This is why I love you.
I guess two things come from that. I'll come back to the second point, but the first one is, do you feel like you kind of owe a cause? Is there a cause that you need to be a part of?
I don't think there's a cause. I guess you could argue there is a cause. We need to make homosexuality a viable existence. But at the same time, I think in order for a cause to be authentic, it doesn't really need someone behind it. Particularly in terms of this one, it needs to just unfold naturally. Otherwise, it will be further stigmatized. Because I think with everything, whether it be your sexuality, your religion, your political undertones, if you're ramming it down someone's throat, they're just going to throw it up all over your face.
Good point. Good point. The second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is coming out of that.
Titties.
Yeah, I know. No, not at all. Gee, I personally can't imagine, and I'm not just saying this. I can't really personally can't imagine being attracted to a guy. I've never been attracted to a guy. Like, I mean, I love James Franco. He's my idol. I love Rafael Nadal, and he's fucking ripped. He's like stacked. But I don't want their protein bars. You know what I mean?
That's ridiculous. You're funny.
But are you gonna call me out right now and say that there's no such thing as 100% heterosexual or 100%
No.
one way?
Because I would definitely agree that there are people who I think hooking up with someone's not the same thing. Like I can see that you are heterosexual. Like just some people they can have maybe crushes, but they just the thought of having a penis up your anus is just not fun.
I don't find that thought enjoyable. I'm sure you don't either.
Oh no.
Alrighty. Cool. I think we've got a few more minutes to make up. Is there any ideas that you've sort of formed while we've been talking about this? Something that you want to say?
Just that I love you dearly and you're incredible.
That's very nice of you to say.
You're supposed to reciprocate,
I
retaliate.
think that you're wonderful.
Thank you kindly.
This whole podcast is about you.
Oh.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, I'm trying to go to 30 minutes. So
Okay.
what
Well,
can
I
we talk
guess
about?
I guess I could say that my sexuality has caused me a lot of grief.
Yeah.
I just don't think about it because I'm already pretentious enough as it is. I'm already inherently concerned with me, I. So taking more time to think about that is quite like disrespectful to myself and to other people around me. So I just don't think about it. But when someone does question it, like someone came up to me like, "Oh, I thought you were lesbian," it's just like, yeah, whatever. Let's just rock and roll. Let's just see how it comes, let it flow, etc.
Yeah. I guess that's what it's come back down to a couple of times in this conversation.
Like, I don't think many things in this world are fixed. Like, obviously there are some things, but this is definitely one of those things that's not ever gonna be fixed for me.
Yeah. You just can't be perfect. You don't.
Oh, fixed as in not static.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's always changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the incidence of lesbian women with children is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, if you can be in a relationship with someone long enough to marry them and have kids with them, then you must be in love with them. Or at least think you're in love with them. And I think the mind does a lot of beautiful things, but if it can convince you that you're in love with someone, and it can convince you that you're in love with someone else who doesn't have a penis, then technically it's a chemistry thing.
Yeah, well, that.
But then, can I just argue one point? Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you.
go.
If you argue on a scientific point of view that
I was just about to ask you about this.
yeah, that people are pre-programmed to. Ooh, what was that one?
I think a gas oven's about to explode.
Probably. I'll stick my head in there later.
Please don't.
What was
very
I
upset.
saying? Oh yeah, that we're pre-programmed to find people whose genetic code will combine with ours and produce something better.
Yeah.
If you argue that, then why are lesbians and homosexuals alive? Because we find people attractive who aren't going to be able to reproduce with us, which suggests that either we have a super gene pool, or our gene pool is so shitty that by natural selection we have been programmed to find someone attractive that isn't going to be able to further pollute the population. Which, sorry, don't kick me in the face. However, I have this theory that people are recycled or souls are recycled, and people who are homosexual were of a different gender in their past life. For example, when I was younger, whenever I did creative writing, I was always a fat, balding man in my head, which explains why I love beautiful women. Like, but that sounds really weird and not at all real, but it definitely is a thing. It's a real thing, hey.
So you reckon you were a fat balding man before?
Definitely, like with a cigar, like kind of a little bit like what's that dude's name?
Orson Welles?
Vertigo.
Oh, okay.
What is Vertigo? Who did Vertigo? And
U2, the song.
no, Christ no.
Vertigo is in the illness.
As in the movie.
I can't remember.
That famous dude you can't remember.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Psychological thriller. What's his name? He also did like thousands of other ones.
Stanley Kubrick?
No, get out of town. I need to know now. It's going to
Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah, you nailed it. Alfred Hitchcock.
1 from 1.
And so there is that debate. Are you born with it? Is it a decision you make? I reckon it's an active decision that you make. However, I think. But then again, I know a set of twins, and they're identical twins, and they're both gay. Then I know another set of identical twins, and one of them's gay and the other one isn't, which suggests that either she's in denial or it definitely isn't a biological thing. And I think it's a really contentious debate, so I think I've already said enough things, i.e. foot and mouth, over the past half hour, so I'm not gonna add anything else that could stir the pot.
You don't want to?
Well, I just don't think I have enough information. Like, for me,
It's
I
okay.
just haven't
It's not a
engaged with
scientific
that sort of thing.
podcast.
I haven't engaged with that concept of, and I just don't want to offend people because I try to stay away from the political nature of sexuality and just enjoy it for what it is.
You're not a martyr.
No. Which is sex with wonderful people.
Yeah. That's your cause.
Have you ever met a guy with love handles? I don't think so. Look what you're missing out on, ladies. Sorry.
Got love handles. I've got really bad ones.
This is not true.
Very true. I'm pretty happy with that. I think we had a good conversation.
Yay. A pleasure. And it was a privilege as well.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for listening to my bullshit explanations and
I enjoyed it.
semi-coherent rambles.
Thank you very much, Lucy.
Yay.
Alright, everybody, that's it for another episode of the Inside Podcast. Today we talked about sexuality, and my guest was my dear friend, my best friend, Lucy, who I've known for approximately 3 years now. We've gone through a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm sorry for being a shit.
No, you haven't been a shit. I've been a shit.
How have you ever been a shit?
Yeah,
to
anyway.
me? Yeah, sorry. That was a really personal interlude. Sorry.
We haven't been shits to each other. We've always been the best of friends. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening. I'll see you in a fortnight. Bye bye.